why don't we get to it? Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? First card in our 5-card spread is our 5 of Cups, and it is in its reversal, which we love to see. Guys, I know the energy's been heavy, but a lot of this is coming through to clear it. Look, you got it. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You just got to go through it to a certain extent. And what we're effectively seeing right now for a lot of this energy that's coming through right now is what have I been describing has been happening over the last few days. A lot of this stuff coming to the surface, rising up, having to be addressed, but it's being addressed so that it can be cleared. It's so that it can be looked at, so it can be observed. It's so it can be finding, again, either moments of finding positive directions forward, looking at something with an optics of identifying and recognizing, is there something that you are addressing right now that's coming back from the past that has a new productive solution to it, something that now is rising to the surface, something that has changed, something that has been adjusted? Or is it something that you just need to move away from? This is effectively what we like retrograde periods for. It is that moment that things come back up so that we can decide if we want to maintain the same position that we were in the last time that they were experienced. Okay? Masculine and feminine in divine union and partnership. A lot of this is almost showing the difference of what a difference a divine union makes. A lot of this has to do with the fact that the position that you potentially find yourself in varies significantly from where you may have been the first time these things were encountered or experienced. That's why we see that even for a lot of the energy right now that's in divine union, some of this was buried pretty deep. That's what the divine union's doing. It's leaving a safe space for some of this deeper wounds, some of this deeper trauma to rise up out of the surface. And I need to stress that it's almost like, again, an interesting moment for the energy in divine union right now, because a lot of this may have been feeling like it was buried pretty darn deep. It's something that, again, you're doing that internal work on the self right now. This is also why we see that the feminine right now is feeling a little bit more resistant in articulating it, because feminine is almost like trying to do this right now in that internal effort. The problem or the hurdle that's happening with masculine is you're now in a space or place where you're feeling the divine union allows you to be more in touch with your own emotionality than you may have before. And this is going to feel like a little bit of a role reversal, because what did we see was happening like 2 weeks ago between the masculine and feminine energy? Was feminine wanting to open up to masculine. Feminine was was a fawn. Feminine's like, I want to have these points. I want to go over our griefs together. Masculine was being like, no, I don't do that. I can't do that. Once I start, I can't stop. Now masculine is looking at feminine, and they see feminine employing that same sense of reticence, that stoicism that they learned from the masculine. And masculine's almost saying to the feminine the exact message that they were giving them 2 weeks ago, which is, what is this? What are you holding back on? Let's express our emotions. Masculine, but again, all of this is moving in a productive way. It is to alleviate grief. It is to alleviate the anxiety. It is to be able to, again, find new productive pathways forward or leaving things behind once and for all. Masculine and feminine are almost feeling right now in the divine union equipped to be able to navigate this from a point of strength. That is the beauty of the divine union. It is the point of empowerment that's helping you have a better headspace to confront some of these circumstances and situations with a more of a positive aspect. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union and partnership right now, this is that moment that is starting to feel like that easement, starting to feel like that relief. And one of the things that we're potentially identifying right now is for the masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union, you're letting things go. Things are almost like shedding around you right now. For masculine, one of the things that's almost like reaffirming to you that this is the right decision in this way is that you don't care. This is like what I've been saying right now for the masculine energy moving into divine union and partnership right now. It's almost that desire or that not caring to a certain extent on where some things were left, specifically because your point of observation, your point of positivity is feeling like you're effectively making a choice. And this is almost a masculine energy having that point of catharsis and recognizing to a certain extent that anything that they're effectively letting go of, it doesn't feel like that much of a tragic loss. It doesn't feel like that much of a point of anxiety, because this is a masculine that's moving into divine union right now. This is a masculine feeling like that is a very intentional choice on their part. Feminine, you may be seeing this right now on the part of the masculine. This could be feeling, if you're moving into divine union right now, a bit of a sea change in terms of a masculine that isn't struggling to release things right now. It's almost like they seem like this like cavalierness, this not caring is amplifying to the feminine that this is in fact something that feels like it is actually divine union occurring, because this is not a masculine energy that is letting go of things with any sense of grief, right? This is a masculine just kind of being like, it's okay, I don't mind, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like feminine's feeling that point because this is a feminine that doesn't feel like a masculine is doing something for their benefit. They're seeing something about a masculine releasing something because that's just the direction that they want to go towards right now. And that is the feminine also feeling that point of affirmation that this is in fact moving them in the space or place of divine union. And to feminine, this is almost going to feel like a weight being released, a point of easement, a point of profound, like positivity that's helping them feel, again, if this is old energy coming back, that something has in fact changed here and there's something coming through that feels more consistent. Now, feminine energy that is in separation right now, this is why we're almost seeing this almost as like feminine not feeling like this is separation, because feminine's the one putting the sword down here. This is the feminine almost, again, doing this from a sense or state of empowerment. Feminine saying like, I'm not going to let myself hold on to grief as I go forward from this point. This is feminine, again, navigating. But again, what is feminine doing right now to help them navigate forward? This is feminine that is looking at things with the hard eye of reality, in as opposed to what the feminine aspired and desired from a situation versus what they actually experienced. And that is that hard look at reality right now that is helping the feminine disseminate between what feels like the dream that they may have had with an energy versus the harsh realities at hand. And feminine being able to do that almost recognizes that they can carry that dream forward as they proceed forward on their journey. And this is feminine almost bringing themselves into that better, like that more optimistic state as they do so at this time. Masculine energy that is in separation right now. This is, again, that moment of observation as to what you want to move your intentionality towards. Masculine, you are also looking right now at situations and circumstances from the past, but this is that point of observation because of the changes that have occurred within the self that are really challenging you, and you are asking yourself right now, are these spaces and places that can come into a point of correction? Do you feel like you've internally changed enough that you feel like there could be a different outcome here? Or are these the gifts that you are getting from a very hard lesson of having to let go of something that you are effectively now going to carry forward, but it is feeling very bittersweet because it's almost that understanding of the self came at a very, very great price, something that you had to lose effectively. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we love this. What a difference some time makes. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership. This is that moment. And for masculine, this is masculine like getting like a level or degree of seriousness to things right now. Masculine in divine union and partnership. Again, everything is amplifying right now. And this is almost why we see that for the masculine and feminine energy that is in this modality. Masculine is seeing feminine doing a lot of this internal work right now. And this is almost masculine looking and seeing in a certain extent for the energy that's in partnership. The feminine going through this like moment of release to a certain extent. And masculine, again, doing this hard, difficult work of seeing a circumstance and situation wherein, more than anything, masculine is trying to make sure that they're not a cause of the pain. This is almost masculine approaching the feminine in this modality, if in divine union right now, and almost again saying to the feminine, seeing the feminine in this modality right now, and saying, I just like, almost like literally potentially, if not like metaphorically right now, almost saying to the feminine, I see that you're going through something right now. I want to just make sure that I'm not the source of it. Is this an internal journey that you're going in right now? And am I the cause of you being in this modality? But there's a deeper question that masculine is potentially asking right now, even if in divine union and partnership, which is, if I'm not the cause of this, is there someone else that is causing this in you? Is this something that you are feeling internally, or is this something that it needs to be addressed? Is this something that needs to be corrected for? Because masculine is, again, almost recognizing, what did I say is happening right now in the divine partnerships, in the divine unions. This is almost masculine looking at the feminine right now and saying that this is some deep hurt. This is some deep work that feminine's doing right now. And masculine is almost feeling that, like, again, that sense of protectiveness in seeing the feminine in this modality, and almost saying to themselves, I want to get to the source of this. I want to know what caused this in you. And even if it's something that is like far in the past, I would really like to know what this is, because it's almost the masculine being in such an emotional connection with the feminine right now that the masculine can almost intuit that a lot of this like deeper work is occurring. Why also? Because masculine's also experiencing it right now. Masculine, if in divine union, is also experiencing this. And we are seeing here that the masculine, to a certain extent, is again amplifying that a lot of the choices and the way that they're addressing things right now are specifically because masculine's almost looking at these situations from the past rising up right now and reaffirming to themselves that they are no longer in that they've moved into a state or space of maturity. This is almost like the masculine having the same moment and recognizing that a lot of their own way of navigating hurdles right now is coming from a space that feels more sober. It feels more clear. It's like the masculine feels like their head is clear in a way that they haven't in the past. And it's that point that the divine union is provided that's also helping the masculine in this capacity. The problem right now is, again, something about this feels like there is something that is being navigated, even if in divine union right now, that feels like it is very separate, but you're just kind of doing it in proximity to each other, which is a little bit of the trigger point. And so making sure that that works in like harmony instead of pulling you both apart is going to be very important right now. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union and partnership right now, one of the things that we are effectively observing is, again, this feeling. Feminine is, this is going to feel like a wave of relief. This is going to feel like a wave of relief right now. If you've survived through like the last few weeks and coming into divine union right now, if you've moved into this modality, if you've come into this state or space, if feminine is seeing masculine releasing things almost with like a nonchalance or a lack of care, this is feminine almost immediately feeling a wave of relief and confirmation that this is not a momentary thing for the masculine, but is actually amplifying a deeper change at work. Because this is, again, not a feminine that feels the weight or anxiety of a masculine that's making changes for the sake of the feminine. This is feminine looking at a masculine and saying they don't care, not because they're trying to make me think that they don't care. They don't care because they don't care. It's no longer their priority. It doesn't have any weight to them. It's not even something that's like crossing their monitor to a certain degree. It's like masculine, like feminine seeing this because masculine's allowing these things to be let go of and just kind of shrugging and moving on. And that's the feminine almost immediately feeling that wave of relief if moving into divine union, because that's the fact of masculine. It's not the masculine saying what they want. It's not the masculine saying that they don't care about things. It's feminine seeing in a very tangible way that this is a masculine that's making very clear that that's like not even like something on their register. Masculine and feminine that are in separate. And masculine, you're feeling this right now. There could be something coming back up from the past right now, and you're not even batting an eyelash. It's almost this moment that, again, it's not affecting you. It's not captivating you. It's not something that you feel like you need to even address. It's just something that it's like you're just not invested in anymore. It's like the thrill's gone. It's not something that feels like, it's because you're realizing your own maturation process, your own priorities have shifted as it relates to divine union, and it's almost building this sense of like nonchalance, lack of care, lack of concern about it. Masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is the feminine energy that is effectively letting go of any energy that they feel have played games with them in the past. Any energy that they feel, again, came towards them in some way, shape, or form that was not truly intending to have divine union, something that was only, or someone that was only trying to serve their own needs. This is feminine energy. Again, utilizing that harsh optics, facing something fully, and looking at something right now and effectively just assessing that whatever that energy is that they're letting go of did not truly feel the need or the desire to be with the feminine so much as they were just trying to fulfill their own needs, their own desires. And this is a feminine energy, basically like moving forward from this time and affirming to themselves that they're just not going to leave themselves open or receptive to any energy that moves in that frequency. Masculine in separation right now, this is going to feel very difficult if you're in separation, because this is you coming into that maturation process right now, but in separation. There's some kind of point of optics right now for the masculine energy in this modality. You see things about yourself that you can't necessarily change. You can't change the past. You can only change the present. The question that masculine's trying to ask themselves right now in separation, where are you going to take this energy? This was a hard lesson to learn. It cost you something. You feel like you've lost something in the lesson of seeing yourself now with better optics. This is now a masculine energy looking at themselves in this modality, feeling like they have effectively shifted into that sense of heightened maturity. And this is that moment that's really amplifying and articulating. Are you going back to situations and circumstances to try to amplify that you can write something? Or is this something that you feel is only like a lesson that you can take forward at this time? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Center card for our spread. Woo! We love this. There's a lot of catharsis. A lot of catharsis that is coming in today as it relates to your own emotionality. Guys, I know yesterday was heavy, right? We had a lot of that heavy energy coming in yesterday. But now it's like that lightning is coming through, that sense of easement, masculine and feminine energy. Masculine, you may even be seeing the fact that whatever heaviness you are experiencing or seeing on the part of the feminine yesterday, it feels like this, the clouds lifting, almost like seeing or experiencing in one way or another, that like that cloud is like almost lifting, if you will. And for the masculine, again, this is potentially even a moment that you are talking or experiencing with the feminine to try to articulate and amplify and say, listen, I just want to make sure, does this have something to do with me? Is this something that I could be doing better? Is this something that is a point of correction that I need to take to bring you into this modality? And this is almost a feminine, if in divine union and partnership, this could be a moment, feminine, that you may be amplifying and clarifying to the feminine, masculine. No, this has nothing to do with you. This is nothing to do with you. This is almost a feminine saying to the masculine, no, what I am going through right now, what I am unpacking within the self right now, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the internal stuff that I'm doing here. We still see that the masculine, is still trying to build that connectivity point with this feminine. They would like them almost to get more articulate. But this is almost a feminine energy that, again, is almost adopting the same modality that masculine was in 2 weeks ago, almost saying to the masculine, like, it doesn't bear discussing. It doesn't bear navigating. It doesn't require that time, effort, and energy. Feminine, why is feminine doing this right now? Because feminine doesn't want to upset apple carts, because feminine recognizes right now that this is, again, much like the feminine taking on the burdens of the masculine. Feminine always also recognizes that any burdens that the feminine lays at the feet of the masculine is going to potentially take up. And again, this is a feminine trying not to make mountains out of molehills, trying not to take something that feels like feminine just going through a release of grief process and having the masculine potentially over amplify it by making it a point, like making it something that needs to be fixated on. So again, feminine's almost learning a very similar lesson that we saw that the masculine was explaining to them just a couple weeks ago in divine union and partnership right now. Feminine's almost like reflecting the exact same modality that we saw that the masculine was in. Now, masculine and feminine, masculine in this modality right now, this could be feeling like that point of relief, because a lot of that relief or that anxiety that you were feeling about the feminine not being necessarily as open to you had a lot to do with some point of anxiety about whether you were the cause of this. But we still see here, masculine, you may even be feeling right now like the feminine hasn't fully unpacked something with you, but you're almost doing everything you can at this time to almost amplify to them without forcing that you are there, that you are receptive to whatever they need to bring towards you. And that in itself is almost that point of, again, that point of connective tissue that you're building with the feminine, almost amplifying and saying, I am here with you. We are experiencing these things together. Whatever your pain is my pain. Feminine doesn't even need to give that to you right now. Feminine feeling that point of assessment is almost enough. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, coming into divine partnership right now. What we are effectively seeing and observing is this point of recognition right now in relation to feeling this sense of relief, like the partnership, the divine union itself that is creating is that source. It's like that shelter from the storm. It's like, again, it's almost this moment. Masculine and feminine are both feeling a wave of relief. Masculine, this is that moment that anything that you're like leaving aside right now, or anything that you feel, even if, I'm even seeing it for a lot of the masculine energy, this is that moment that even if things are kind of like getting upset by you coming into divine union, it's almost that sense of not caring. It's like literally that energy of like looking at something and not necessarily feeling the weight of care around it, specifically because you feel like in a way it doesn't feel like a loss, it feels like a relief. It feels like something that like this is something that you're unburdening yourself of, because your priority has become the divine union. It has become the divine partnership. Feminine, you're seeing this on the part of a masculine, and this is like the thing you couldn't even explain to masculine prior to this point, which is, again, you don't want a masculine making any of these changes as a feeling of concession. This is feminine that wants to recognize that divine union's there, because there's a masculine that doesn't feel any weight or anxiety or fear in letting something go, because that's the feminine observing a masculine that's actually ready for divine union, because it's not even a choice. It's not even something that they give a moment in choosing. It's because the priority is the priority, and the priority being a priority means that there isn't even a choice. Feminine in separation right now, this is exactly how we see that the feminine energy is navigating forward right now, because we see that for the feminine energy in separation, this is the feminine energy. It's not the fact that there aren't some situations and circumstances from the past rising back up to the surface that need to be faced. Feminine is almost reaffirming to themselves through a point of catharsis that that energy was not serious. They did not move towards the feminine in a serious way. And this is almost, again, a feminine energy that is amplifying themselves as long as someone comes towards them in a serious manner, as long as someone shows an ability and degree of recognizing the sensitivity of circumstances and situations, as long as someone is not playing a games effectively with the feminine, then feminine feels clear to continue forward from this point. But it is almost taking this point of constantly looking back and reminding themselves that whatever's behind them feels like they were doing that. Again, it's almost like feminine looking back on things and reminding themselves that they still see things the way that they see them. And the bigger question is whether the energy has effectively changed their vibration. Feminine's almost recognizing that they don't need to go backwards to see that an energy that's moving forwards in this capacity will be the first one to tell them. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is a moment that you feel like you yourself are kind of coming into this sense of shifting priorities. Masculine, again, there's this feeling right now that things that you may have gravitated to in the past that may have captivated you, it feels like they feel a little hollow in your hands right now. It may be that moment that things that like effectively like really like were fun for you in the past, they just don't feel like they're that fun anymore. It's almost like looking at something and feeling like, you chose a cup, that the cup is effectively empty. And it's that moment that you're potentially observing right now that is creating this space or place for you where your own priorities are potentially shifting. And it's going to feel like a little bit of a personal maturation process, a growth process, because this is that moment that is now, because of where you find yourself now, you're changing your optics on some things in the past, and you're asking yourself if, again, you left something valuable behind in the process, if you moved forward in the wrong direction, or if you now understand something about yourself that came at a great price. And this is that moment that, again, it's either the relief of going back to get what you need, or going forward right now with that deeper sense of conviction. But again, having it come at the cost of something that was very valuable and precious to you. Continuing to get clarification, fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is 3 of Cups in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership. This is, again, more of that feeling of potential catharsis coming into play. Masculine and feminine energy right now. Masculine's own anxiety point right now as it relates to divine partnership, because, again, this is potentially even a masculine that has been seeing and observing a feminine in a modality of like having a lot of anxiety, bearing a lot of this weight right now. Masculine seeing feminine in this modality literally has one of 2 questions. We see here that the masculine's navigating this right now almost like from a point of inquiry with the feminine, and almost a masculine we're seeing in this modality right now, which is almost like the masculine saying to themselves, listen, if you're going through something right now, I just got 2 questions for you. 1, is it because of me? And if the feminine, if in divine union and partnership right now, says to the masculine, no, it doesn't have anything to do with you. The next question the masculine goes, good, who is it? Is there actually like a person that I have to like go after here? Is this being inspired? If what I see in this distress around you right now, is this an individual? These are like literally the 2 questions that the energy is asking the feminine right now, if in divine union partnership. Is it me? And if it's not me, is it someone else? That's masculine getting very like, this is masculine getting very like pragmatic around seeing the feminine in this moment of deep unpacking and being like, in a way, like, remember how I said that the feminine was more in that defensive space right now? This is almost masculine, literally like looking at the feminine being like, who do I have to hit? Do I have to hit myself, or do I have to hit somebody else? Masked feminine, I have to stress here, feminine energy in this modality, seeing a masculine in this vibration could exactly be why the feminine is hesitant to bring any problems to the masculine in the first place. Because this is a feminine that, again, going through, doing this deep unpacking right now within the self, clearing this for themselves right now. This is almost that point of observation why the feminine is more, what did I say? Feminine didn't want to upset the apple cart with their own problems yesterday, even in divine union and partnership. And for feminine in this modality right now, this is why we see that feminine is not trying to bring a lot of these burdens to the masculine right now, because this is almost feminine saying to themselves, I don't want to put this weight on the masculine energy. I don't want them to have to carry this for me, and I don't want them to feel like they need to have a reactivity point in energy that may be ancillarily or somehow connected to this, because this is almost feminine that's like looking at the masculine right now in divine union and partnership and appreciating this energy, but almost seeing this energy as like the masculine energy is like walking around with a hammer looking for a nail. So masculine sees feminine in distress and is like, where do I have to put that hammer? And feminine's like, you don't need to have a hammer. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Masculine and feminine, they're moving into divine union right now. This is the feminine seeing the masculine. The feminine that's going to potentially feel like a huge feeling of catharsis if moving into divine union right now, because again, this is potentially a feminine energy It's not that there aren't situations and circumstances right now that are related to energy around the masculine and feminine popping up. It's almost masculine is like not even giving it any consideration, potentially even talking to the feminine about it, but not in a way that like over amplifies it. It feels like it is the unilateral approach of looking at things. And because again, you've just created the divine union, it's almost creating that outside looking in effect. It's almost this feeling of feminine recognizing that this is a masculine that's being very candid about situations or circumstances, or being very nonchalant about them, because this is a masculine. It's almost like, again, it's not that this masculine's trying to hide anything from the feminine. It's almost trying to amplify how little importance that energy around them has at this time. It's not something that really captivates or gravitates the attention of the masculine. Feminine seeing a masculine in this modality, huge wave of relief, because again, this isn't a masculine that is like intentionally letting things go at like the direction of the feminine. This isn't a feminine that feels like they need to micromanage the masculine as it relates to taking the actions necessary to preserve and to prioritize the divine union. The wave of relief for feminine is the fact that this is a masculine that's just choosing it visibly in their actions. They don't need to be told to do the obvious thing. They're just doing what the feminine would hope them to do. And that is where we see that wave of relief is coming through, because this is a masculine that is unpacking things with the feminine. They are on the same side. That's the divine union. Masculine in separation, in divine, moving into divine union right now, this is just something that you feel internally right now. You're just feeling this internally. You're having this moment right now where it's like a lot of the energy around you, even if they're not necessarily like in a positive place because you're moving into divine union, it's almost this moment that like, you know, you're feeling to a certain extent like it's out of your hands and it's not necessarily your problem, right? It's almost like creating that moment, and it's like that level or degree of lack of care. You're almost recognizing, is that shift of priority? Is you moving into that like more sober state of recognizing like where your priorities lie at this point? And a lot of this is, again, potentially also seeing a feminine that's in that same modality, because you're getting so fastidious with what you're trying to create together. Feminine energy in separation right now, this is exactly why the feminine energy is able to continue forward in separation, because some of these things that the feminine is remembering, potentially the things that are rising up from the past right now, I'm not saying that the feminine energy in separation isn't being triggered, but it's almost reaffirming to them in the memory exactly why they walked away from something, especially if this was looking back at past situations and almost reaffirming to themselves. It's almost like that. It's going to feel like feminine is like splashing cold water on their own face spiritually and energetically, if you will, because feminine's almost looking at something that they're feeling a sense of loss on and going, what do I miss? Like, what do I miss? Do I miss an energy that was showing that they did not want to commit? Or do I miss an energy that potentially was making it clear that there was outside energies that also were vying for priority and vying for competition? Feminine's almost reminding themselves of this. This is that like cold water effect of feminine coming, snapping out of it today, if in separation. And it's coming not by avoiding the past, but just looking at it like straight in the face. And feminine almost saying to themselves, like, I don't want any of that. It's a relief to be away from an energy that made them feel the way they did. And that has not anything to do with care. Again, this is not a feminine that's letting their heartstrings guide them. It's feminine looking at the matter at hand, looking at the facts beyond their control. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is going to feel like a challenging space, especially if you feel like you are sobering up right now. If you are in separation and the things that used to captivate your attention no longer feel like they're captivating your attention. It feels like that cold water is hitting your face right now, but the cold water isn't the cold water of reaffirming something you're walking away from. It's the cold water in feeling like someone is giving you like some kind of energetic or spiritual wake-up call right now, in feeling like, in a way, like the party's over. Like it's not something that's fun anymore. Something that you used to think was a vibration that was fun to inhabit doesn't feel like it is fun to inhabit right now. And specifically, it is because there's something here about the energy around you right now feeling, again, it's almost that moment that this is either going to feel like of one or two different modalities happening right now if you're in separation. Masculine, this is either feeling right now that you may have been in a space or place where you wanted to keep your options open, but now it doesn't even, like, you're almost asking yourself, why did I ever want to do that? What was, like, it's almost like asking yourself, like looking at something and being like, that doesn't feel like a positive anymore. Or masculine, this is feeling like a lot of the energy around you just isn't there the way that they used to be. It's feeling like a little bit about like almost looking around and being like, where did everybody go? Right? And for the masculine in this modality right now, this is that moment that like it is a bit of a sobering shift that's happening. So being able to take care of yourself in this moment is almost the masculine really affirming to themselves and feeling like, again, there's something that they either need to go back to because they feel like they lost it, or going forward with this renewed sense of conviction because something about your priorities has shifted. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is Queen of Wands in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership. What's the problem here? What's the problem? What's the problem? The problem has to do with what we've been seeing over the last few days, which is a feminine energy that doesn't feel very up for completely expressing to the masculine what they've been going through internally. Why is the feminine energy in this modality? Well, what did I just say? This is a feminine energy that worries because to a certain extent, and this is almost showing the power of the divine union. This is a feminine energy right now that isn't necessarily articulating everything that they're feeling right now to the masculine because the feminine doesn't want to put these burdens on the masculine's energy. This is, again, feminine almost looking at masculine right now, if in divine union, and feeling to a certain extent like masculine is someone who has a hammer looking for a nail. And this is feminine almost trying to say to a certain extent, this is something I'm going through internally. This isn't something that I need. This is something that I need to go through myself. This is feminine almost being like, I need to take this journey for myself right now. This is something that I need to do for myself at this moment. This is not something that you inspired. And this is almost feminine almost amplifying to masculine. This doesn't have to do with outside energy. This is feminine almost saying, this is something I need to go through internally right now. Masculine in this modality, this is masculine energy seeing feminine in this modality and being like, are you sure? This is literally the masculine. Just as we saw that the feminine was feeling a little doubtful of masculine a few days ago, this is masculine going, are you sure? I don't think that's the case. Maybe if you tell me about it. This is almost going to, again, this could potentially create a little bit of friction point, even for masculine and feminine divine union right now, because this is almost coming through right now of a masculine not wanting to take the feminine's word on something. This is masculine almost being like, are you absolutely sure that that's the case? Are you really sure that that's happening? Because this is a masculine that, again, if in their own emotional connection, knows this feminine enough to know that this is a feminine that doesn't like to put the burdens of themselves at the feet of others. So this is a masculine going, are you sure that that's actually what's happening? Or is this something that, again, you don't like? You see how these energies are so in tune right now that one can anticipate like what's going on with the other one, even if the other one isn't saying it. So even now, this is a masculine that like potentially is feeling dubious that is the case for the feminine right now in that modality or in that state or place. But again, in a way, it's like the best worst problem because these energies are in such a flow state that like one can almost anticipate one's reticence in expressing something that they're going through that feels like an internal hurdle. Masculine and feminine that are working into divine union. This is feminine and masculine going through this moment right now. And this is the only thing we have to be a little conscientious for because this is a feminine energy that is seeing a masculine moving in this way. The feminine is almost seeing the masculine like having this like lack of care around things, lacking care around some things right now. And this is a feminine that is almost like, again, remember when I said like the anxiety of messing something up right now? This is a feminine that's almost like starting to doubt themselves potentially if you're coming into divine union right now. Because again, this is almost feminine seeing something and not wanting to say anything about it because they don't want to like mess it up. So this is a feminine, and one of the problems that may be happening right now for the divine union energy is that masculine, if you're coming into divine union right now, you could be seeing a feminine that like is a little bit more reticent and potentially trying to get to the bottom of it. You see how these energies are the same energy now? They're moving into the same frequency, being like, are you okay? And feminine in a way is almost like, I'm not okay. You're giving me everything that I want. I'm feeling overwhelmed in seeing this happen. Feminine's literally like, I'm just keeping my mouth shut because I don't want to mess anything up here, right? And for the only problem here with masculine is potentially seeing the feminine energy coming into that expression and feeling like the feminine is like not being as open to you right now as you would effectively desire, right? It's almost what we're seeing. These energies are almost matching one another to a certain degree right now. Now, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is exactly why we see that the feminine energy is able to move forward in this capacity. Because what we are really identifying here is, again, for the feminine energy in separation right now, this is a modality that we see that the feminine is almost reaffirming to themselves the reality of some past situations. This is literally the discerning between a fantasy and a reality for feminine right now, if in separation. Because this is the feminine energy looking at things right now, still feeling that connection point to things from the past, observing them, but with the eyes of clarity. The difference between what they felt like was emotionally happening between them and an energy versus what they actually saw tangibly. And for the feminine energy going through this right now, this is looking at the hard facts and reality of circumstances or situations. And the problem is the dissonance between the connection they felt like they may have had with someone versus the true hard facts of what that energy actually portrayed in physical reality. And this is how we see that the feminine is guiding themselves forward right now. But it's that difficulty or burden because the feminine is almost immediately almost coming into a modality of, again, not even blaming the energy anymore, almost blaming themselves, looking at something and saying, you know, this is the energy of someone that showed in every way, shape, or form that they were not serious. This was potentially the energy of someone, again, if this was in the past, that did not make the feminine energy a priority. And the feminine is almost saying to themselves, wow, that's like cold water on the face that the feminine's pouring on themselves, which is almost the feminine saying, you know, get out of fantasy land. Get out of that land where you think that something was happening that was not happening, and just look at the facts at hand around what was occurring. That is how the feminine is almost coming back into that point of positivity right now, is doing that separation point between the fantasy of something versus the true reality that they experienced. Masculine, if in separation right now, what we are effectively identifying is a moment that is feeling like a bit of this is like a lot of maturing energy coming to masculine in separation right now that's changing your own optics on circumstances or situations. Because again, masculine, this could be this point of observation in looking at yourself now and looking at some of the way that you moved in the past and almost immediately having that point of recalibration, looking at something and being like, I would not do that now. I wouldn't have addressed it in that way. I wouldn't have moved in that fashion. And it's that moment that we are seeing right now for the masculine in this modality that is feeling more like a point of personal observation, because it's almost comparing the present self with the past self and saying to yourself, I am no longer that person. I would not necessarily have done those things. And that is why we see right now that this is a moment of, again, for the masculine energy coming into this maturation process. And it is going to feel like a bit of a maturation process, right, masculine, if you're in separation, of asking oneself, do I go back to those situations to amplify that I would no longer make those choices? Or was this the price that I had to pay to become this version of myself? Is this the cost that it cost me? Is it that partnership? Is it that energy? Because there's something here that, again, was almost the catalyst for this change within you, was in what felt like a broken partnership. But is this a moment that is what is the cost that is going to allow you to go forward from this point? And that is going to be your point of catharsis. Or is this something that you feel like that is your conviction point, coming into that state of easement, coming back to go back towards that energy, to be able to mollify and rectify something because you now recognize what you would do differently? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Page of Cups in its reversal. May I get one card to clarify? We've got here our King of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership right now. This is masculine energy, potentially feeling that moment or that point of frustration to a certain extent. And this could kind of come out right now as it relates to making sure that even if in divine union and partnership right now, masculine doesn't take this as a little bit of like a personal ego thing, because we're seeing here that for the energy right now in divine union and partnership, there's something about seeing the feminine experiencing or going through something right now and not being as articulate and reticent on it, that almost creates a state and space of masculine that makes them feel frustrated. It's almost the masculine potentially articulating this to the feminine right now. Again, trying to say to the feminine, and almost, I think that this could actually come through right now as, again, the feminine trying to learn the lesson that they gave the masculine, coming back to the masculine via the masculine to the feminine again. Feminine like having to take their own note, if you will. This could potentially be a masculine that may even be amplifying to the feminine and just saying, I just want to say, if I was doing this right now, if I was going through this in this way, you would not be asking me, you would not be telling me that it's something that I should just bear for myself. You would be telling me that I should share it. You would be telling me that I should tell you. So this could be a moment right now of masculine almost amplifying to the feminine and saying and pointing out some kind of incongruity in the feminine, asking the masculine to be very forthright and open right now. And the masculine not feeling like the feminine has that ability to trust the masculine to do the same. So this could be happening right now, potentially, as it relates to how the masculine is potentially feeling even in divine union right now. That could be that point of frustration. It could be that point of anxiety. It could be that point of again, almost like articulating to feminine the fact that this feels somewhat disempowering to the masculine in that modality right now. And we're effectively seeing that for feminine, the articulation point of the feminine is trying to make to the masculine in this moment is saying to them, it's not that I don't want to share it with you. It's just that feeling that I don't think that there's necessarily anything that you could potentially do about it. This is almost the feminine trying to say to the masculine, again, and amplifying that this isn't necessarily something that the feminine wants to burden the masculine with. Because again, this is almost a feminine trying to say, this is an internal hurdle that I'm experiencing. This is something that you literally can't effectively help with. This is something that I'm going through on a personal level right now. And there's no point in articulating it because it's intangible. It's almost the feminine trying to explain that to the masculine right now and saying it's not something that you can effectively assist with. Masculine and feminine, but even now, there's something about that territory that feels like it could potentially create a bit of a fraught moment right now, or point of distance between masculine and feminine. Because again, it's almost the masculine wanting to be able to help the feminine in that modality, but again, almost saying to the feminine and masculine going through this right now, it's okay. Like, it's almost like allowing for that sense of easement. Because again, we do see here, what's very interesting is, even though we recognize right now that this is a masculine energy that's in that modality, we are almost amplifying the fact that we see here that for both of the energies, it is that connection point, that sense of solidarity that you're creating in the divine union that is almost amplifying it. And it's almost the feminine basically saying to the masculine, I don't need you to do anything. I just need you to be there. You're already assisting with this. You're already assisting with whatever I'm going through internally right now. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union and partnership right now. This is that wave of relief that you're potentially seeing right now, feminine, if this is masculine energy that is just letting go of things. Because this is a masculine energy that you're potentially feeling is, again, almost really amplifying in the way that they're moving right now. How like it's not even a point to be discussed. The priority is clear. This is a feminine energy that doesn't see the masculine getting guarded or protective over something. It's almost the masculine just changing and adjusting their own behavior because it's like the masculine knows where they want to be. it doesn't even bear any kind of like, it's the nonchalanceness. It is the openness. It's even the openness of the masculine talking about these things right now that is amplifying to the feminine that this is in fact something that the masculine is intentionally moving towards right now. And it's not something that the feminine feels like they need to like cultivate or curate in the masculine. The feminine realizes that the point of the divine union is that the feminine doesn't even have to ask for these things to happen. Masculine's almost just naturally falling into that frequency. Masculine in this modality right now, it's almost like feeling like a burden that's being lifted. The problem that's happening right now is, again, feminine is almost staying very tight-lipped right now. Feminine is just kind of watching and waiting this masculine energy. And even in a sense right now, masculine, if again, much like we see for the energy in divine union right now, seeing a feminine energy that's holding back speaking or holding back expressing things. This is almost a feminine energy that's saying things in the same way, which is almost a feminine energy being like, things are going so well right now. I don't want to interrupt or interfere by saying or doing something that is going to like upset the apple cart. Feminine's going through that emotionality right now, potentially of coming into divine union and seeing this happening and almost like not even wanting to speak on it because they're so worried that even if to like mention it would like ruin, like mess it up. Like someone's like, you know what I mean? But that also is coming from a point of positivity, if you will. But it could lead to the fact of the masculine looking at the feminine being like, are you okay? Because much like the feminine looking at masculine a few days ago and being like, are you okay? This is masculine now looking at feminine being like, are you okay? And feminine being like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Because feminine's like, oh my goodness, it's like happy, like seeing it happen. Now, feminine in separation right now. This is, again, feminine just coming into that point of release. Feminine, again, coming to that point of release. And feminine is using some hard tacks here. Some hard brass tacks, looking at the cold truth of situations or circumstances. This is not feminine energy in separation right now. This is not a feminine energy that's allowing themselves room for nostalgia. This is almost some feminine energy that's taking any of those points of nostalgia that they held with an energy and almost immediately recalibrating it, because it's almost those moments that we see that the feminine separation is going, well, that was a really nice moment. Oh, but then there was that one awful one. That was a really nice moment. Oh, but then there was that really awful one. And one of the problems that we're effectively seeing here is feminine is trying to recalibrate an energy that may have had really awful experiences with good ones by amplifying that the lack of consistency is what the feminine is releasing. It's not that this energy from the past didn't have positives, but it is the fact that the feminine energy could never tell whether what they were going to experience in a vibration of what they're releasing was going to be a positive or a negative. The inconsistency was the pain point. The inconsistency was the wound. The wound does not occur from someone being terrible to you all the time. The wound does not occur from someone being nice all the time. The wound occurs by an energy that is unable to be anticipated as to whether there would be kindness or harm. Kindness or harm. And for feminine energy, that reminder that it was not about having good moments with energy, but focusing on the inconsistency is what is allowing the feminine energy to close the cycles and move forward from this point. The consistency is the key. Masculine energy, if you are in separation right now, you are potentially seeing this inconsistency in your behavior. This inconsistency is a sign of personal weakness. You are potentially now observing, again, past versions of yourself and recognizing that the inconsistencies were the sign of personal weakness because they demonstrate a lack of being able to stand in integrity. For masculine energy, recognizing this about yourself, this could be the message that has been coming towards you from a lot of the energy around you at this time. That point of observation is one that you may even recognize, but again, it is allowing you to recognize it because you have changed enough that you are amplifying and seeing it and recognizing it in the past version of the self. And it is that point of observation that may have come at the cost of something very valuable and precious to you right now, that is either amplifying whether you are going back towards it to heal it, or whether you are taking this as a very painful gift that you got at a great cost, that you will be utilizing as you proceed forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between Page of Cups in its reversal, in combination with our Nine of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership right now. This is that point of easement. And again, for the masculine right now, there could be a moment that you're seeing that the feminine energy last few days may have been real heavy for them. You may have been seeing them like under this like little storm cloud over the feminine's head. Masculine, you're potentially seeing that today the feminine feels like they're grounding themselves. Feminine's coming into that point of grounding. Feminine's grounding their energy again. Seeing the feminine energy come into that point of grounding is almost immediately creating a state of relief. Remember what I was saying the other day? Again, I don't want to get into gender roles here because this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. It's giving a lot of that like happy wife, happy life moment, right? Like masculine's being like, oh good, there's stability here. We see the stability here. This is great. For masculine energy in this modality, it's almost immediately feeling that wave because whatever's being articulated to you right now, and again, this is masculine, again, almost feeling from trying to help the feminine through this, being like, is this me? Like masculine almost looking the feminine, being like, look, you can feel the way you want to feel. I just got two questions. Is this me or is this somebody else? And if the answer is no to both, we're fine. Like that's fine. Masculine's feeling that wave of support from that masculine, and that's almost the masculine identifying that whatever the like almost like building that sense of a feminine going, seriously, it's okay, I'm grounded, I'm okay with this, I'm all right moving forward on this, I don't need you to step in this way. This is an internal thing that the feminine's working through right now. Masculine in feminine, again, in divine union and partnership, this is why you're feeling so grounded. It's almost the fact, I have to point, it is the fastidiousness of the masculine energy in this modality that almost immediately is helping to calibrate the feminine, because this isn't a feminine that needs the masculine to step in some way. This is a feminine that just needs to know the masculine energy cares, that they have that support, that they recognize and they're in alignment. And this is almost a feminine, if a feminine has that masculine, just checking in on them, just saying like, are you okay? You know I'm here if you need me. That's like the feminine being like, that's all I needed. Literally, that's all the feminine needed. And feminine is like, right back. Feminine's like, no, I'm good. Because again, that's the feminine coming into that point of calibration. Again, going through these points right now in terms of the feminine grounding themselves specifically because feminine is working in that capacity of, again, working to keep things, to maintain that sense of balance, to maintain that sense of positivity, and just wanting that reminder from masculine. Like I said, when it's moving well, you don't need to put in a lot of work. It's just having that touch point of knowing that the masculine is there if they need them is enough for the feminine to continue to feel like that point of grounding. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine partnership right now, this is the feminine feeling that sense of contentment coming in. This is a feminine that, again, this is a moment that these energies are almost the same, because again, this is almost a masculine. If the masculine's going through this moment right now and potentially is even unpacking some things with the feminine, even addressing some situations and circumstances right now, having to do with outside energy. Again, this is almost masculine just saying to the feminine, like, if this comes up, like, yeah, it's not that important to me. I'm happy to tell you about it. I don't mind sharing these things, because the feminine realizes that the masculine is perfectly willing to share things that they don't think is important to them. Masculine is just like very open about talking about these things because they're like their importance is drifted. And this is the feminine immediately seeing a masculine like that. And again, much like the feminine, masculine seeing feminine a little quiet, a little tight-lipped here and being like, are you okay? Feminine being like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Because this is a feminine that, again, it doesn't matter. The masculine can tell them anything about what's occurred in the past because it feels like it's in the past. Because it feels like it's not something that's actively happening right now. It's masculine almost saying like, yeah, I'm telling you about these things because they don't have any significance and they're in the past. There's nothing here to hide. And that's the feminine, like, again, seeing a masculine moving into that modality and that lack of care, almost just expressing these things from points of observation, is building that sense of feminine, of the stability. Feminine's still worried, but feminine's getting more and more secure and stable in the divine union because the masculine's actions are matching their words and vice versa. Masculine energy, if you're moving into divine union right now, this is almost a moment that, again, you don't necessarily, these things that are around you, you may be feeling more open to expressing and talking about with the feminine because, again, their priority in your life has suddenly vanished. It's like, yeah, you don't feel, it doesn't, it's like a floodgates open. You're not reticent talking about them because, like, they don't have importance. And almost masculine kind of realizing that, potentially even feeling right now that you're much more eager and open about talking to things right now with this feminine because suddenly the importance and priority has shifted to the feminine. And this is masculine that's almost willing and allowing oneself to talk about anything right now with this energy, so long as that feeling of, again, amplifying, that you recognize that there's not something that you can bring to this energy that's going to create a friction point. So long as you're honest and open, it's almost just going to create that sense of stability for the feminine right now. You're building that connective tissue. It's almost a masculine being like, I'm okay talking about these things because they don't matter. This is what matters. Feminine in separation right now. Again, this is a feminine that doesn't even feel like they're in separation so much. This is feminine grounding their energy right now. Feminine's grounding their energy, and yes, there is this feeling of some things from the past coming back up, but this is feminine almost like, again, throwing cold water on their own faces on it and being like, that was not consistent. That energy was not consistent. That energy, it may have been good, but it was also bad. It was positive and negative. It was all over the place. This is feminine putting that cold water on and saying, that is the reality check that feminine's giving themselves right now, almost immediately. As soon as it rises up, feminine's almost doing that mantra that's saying, it was inconsistent. It was inconsistent. It was inconsistent. This is feminine going, doesn't matter if it was good at times. Doesn't matter if it was bad. It was inconsistent. And feminine saying, I'm looking for consistency. Here's a thought. It could just be good all the time. It could just be good all the time. Feminine's almost reminding themselves of that. Okay? Right? This is the feminine immediately. Cold karmic water right on the feminine's face, grounding in the present, fixing on what is real as opposed to the desire or the dream of what could have been. Masculine in separation right now. This is the same cold water. It's the same cold water. You feel a little cold water? Do you feel a little cold water on your face? The cold water is that realization. The cold water is that realization of your perception of how you are inconsistent, of your own inconsistency. You're seeing this now, and the optics are potentially shifting right now, and a lot of it has to do with a lot of the grounded feminine energy and the realization that if you were inconsistent, maybe that's why the energy around you was inconsistent. Maybe there was an energy around you that was very stable that you brought inconsistency towards. And it's that moment of recognizing and identifying to a certain extent right now for the masculine, almost realizing and being like, oh my goodness, if I want stable feminine energy around me, if I want consistent energy, I must also be consistent. If I want the energy reflects. The energy is a mirror. If I want stable feminine energy, I need to be consistent. I need to put into the well what I want to pull out of the well. This is the masculine having that point of understanding of the self, and it is requiring you to, again, either have that moment that, again, is identifying how your own behavior in the past was inconsistent and the feminine was just reflecting it back to you. Or this is a moment of, again, masculine recognizing what it is. What are you focusing on? This is masculine, if in separation right now, moving into that state or place of understanding and realization and what you need to change in your own self to be able to generate a stable feminine energy around you at this time. And this is either a moment, masculine, that you are either feeling like this came at a great cost of a connection with another feminine energy, so you are going back to bring that towards them, or this is a moment that you are taking this as a very painful lesson that came at a great price, and you are now taking that forward to be able to assess that and to find that for yourself. Masculine and, okay, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Three of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Ten of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine that are moving in divine union and partnership. It's nice, right? It's again, so the masculine and feminine energy that, again, it's not the fact that everything is perfect. It's not the fact that everything is moving in that modality of everything being easy peasy. It is that moment right now. Again, there's a lot of stuff potentially rising up to the path around, like around you right now, around like, you know, old situations, old circumstances, things that feel like they need to be navigated. But again, the divine union itself is the grounding force. What do I keep saying? It's not the fact that some of these things are coming up. It's just that they're going back away just as quickly. Their importance is diminished. It's almost like, again, the reaffirmation right now in divine union is things can only create problems as long as we give them the attention to create problems. As long as we are moving in that vibration of focusing on what we're trying to create for ourselves at this moment. This is that moment of masculine and feminine, if in divine union right now, almost having that point of recognition that ultimately the divine union and partnership is that source of stability. It is that like source of what you are creating at this moment. And in a way, it almost like, again, it is changing the shift in priorities because it doesn't feel like you're handling things from a unilateral perspective. You are looking at things and you are navigating them together. It is that point of building that energy together that feels like there's that outside looking in approach. There's that moment of feeling the strength of what you've created within, between yourselves right now, that is almost amplifying what isn't for you. And it's almost that moment right now that, again, feminine is almost not amplifying right now their own internal traumas that are coming up, because feminine doesn't want to like drag those like unhealthy things into the partnership itself. Masculine, you may even be feeling that to the same degree, but you're both having different ways of navigating it. Masculine almost, again, as a hilarious role reversal. Masculine now wants to talk about them, and feminine is now taking that more resilient approach that they learned from masculine over the last couple of weeks and being like, no, I'm going to be tough. I'm not going to talk about these things. I don't even want to give them any attention or time, because feminine's learning that act of stoicism from the masculine. Same thing for the energy coming into divine union right now. Same exact, the guys are on the same frequency. Feminine that's in separation right now, this is feminine moving towards that. This is feminine not only, and again, feminine is doing this right now because they don't feel like they're doing it in a vacuum. Feminine energy feels right now that they are focused on the energy that potentially is, honestly, this is feminine energy that is going through this right now, that is holding on to each other as they do same. This is feminine energy feeling the support of what they're pushing away from themselves right now. This is almost that moment of feminine almost identifying and articulating by holding on to the energy that's also almost experiencing and saying, I've been there too. I know what you've experienced, right? Because how did this start for the feminine? This was feminine, again, going through a point of crisis, but not going through that point of crisis by themselves. Going to other energy that's been through that point of crisis was amplifying and helping the feminine energy and saying, again, Focus on what you know you are worthy of. Focus on what feels like it is balanced. Focus on what feels like it is productive, and just leave that stuff in the past. Walk towards the sun. Let the shadows fall behind you. This is masculine, and like this is feminine again. If in divine, like moving in separation right now, looking right now and saying to themselves that all they need to do is, again, move into that point of productivity, and almost utilizing this as an articulation point in helping them identify what is and is not for them. Because it's almost the energy that's experienced such situations and circumstances is almost amplifying that is not what they want either. Masculine and feminine, masculine energy, if in separation right now, this is a feeling right now that may be feeling like a lot of that outside looking in approach, if you will. Because again, masculine energy, it's not the fact that you don't have what you would effectively have been essentially aspiring for prior to this. This is almost a masculine energy that, again, this may be a moment that in the past you were choosing, you were making the intentional choice of leaving one's options open. But it's almost that moment that for masculine energy right now, that this is a reprioritization point where you're seeing here that your own priorities have shifted. And this is a moment right now for masculine, that point of observation is one that's coming through an act of self-correction. This is a moment for masculine in recognizing how one's own inconsistency has potentially framed you right now. And on terms, in a way, again, not necessarily feeling like one wants to have one's options open, but more wants to come into an act of correction. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now that is in separation, this is feeling like a moment of observing and trying to come into and identify what you can do to fix something. And this fixing is either fixing and going back to energy that you may have recognized that you now would have changed your behavior on, and having this be a point of adjustment, or this is a moment that you are taking this as a very, very painful lesson that came at the cost of not just like potentially one partnership, one individual, but maybe even other energy surrounding it. And this is that like almost like that sacrifice that you're having to make as you move forward with a very hard lesson. So a lot of this energy right now is masculine trying to see if there's a way of personal accountability and observation in terms of how you've changed now that will allow this to come into a state of easement, or if this is just something that is a very painful lesson that you're going to have to hold on to as you proceed forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on this cards right now between our Three of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Cups. Now, again, masculine and feminine energy, if in divine union right now. This is that moment that feels like an easement point. Because again, this is almost the feminine energy that is learning that act of stoicism. Feminine energy is almost like in this modality right now where they're doing a lot of this like clearing in their own experience right now, even if in divine union and partnership at this moment. And this is going to feel like a moment right now for the energy that's going through this in divine union and partnership. That again, it's that point of observation in terms of just navigating away from anything that feels like it isn't aligned to you at this time. For the feminine energy at this moment, there is this moment that we are effectively seeing that, again, it's almost this fact for the feminine in divine union right now. It's like not even being able to like articulate and amplify what you're going through right now. For more than anything for feminine, this is almost feminine kind of like just looking at things right now and allowing this to be a process, allowing themselves to like almost like go through these moments right now that helps the feminine continue forward in this capacity. But for feminine, this is almost going to feel like a point of catharsis right now, because the only problem that we're seeing that's happening right now with feminine is almost feeling that anxiety in expressing their own doubts, in expressing their own fears, in expressing or amplifying. This is literally feminine that's trying to navigate things right now by refusing to focus on the negative. This is almost the difference right now that we're seeing between masculine and feminine right now, because feminine to a certain extent is almost expressing to a certain extent within their own self this feeling of not wanting to make mountains out of molehills. This is feminine just kind of processing a lot of things right now internally to almost see their own hurdles. This is literally feminine saying, I do not want to spend my time dwelling on the negative. Instead of dwelling on the negative, I'm just going to refocus my attention on the positive. And that is how the feminine is effectively navigating any hurdles, both within the self and also around any energy around them right now that they feel isn't in a positive place. Because it's almost feminine saying, like, I'm not going to like amplify negative with more negative. I'm just going to turn my attention to what feels like it is positive and productive. Masculine, you may be seeing this right now if in divine union with feminine. And it is this moment that, again, potentially feels like a point that you yourself are also embodying that same lesson, because it's not the fact for masculine that you aren't also experiencing this to a certain degree. The problem around this with masculine is masculine may be feeling more inclined to discuss these things right now. Masculine almost like wants to point out. Masculine like almost wants feminine to be like, no, I want you to tell me what these things are. I want to address them. I thought we just went through this whole thing where we said that we were going to tell each other how we were feeling. Right? For masculine right now, this is almost like one of those frustrating points, because this is almost a feminine energy that masculine sees is going through some stuff right now. And masculine is feeling like the feminine isn't just articulating it to them. You know? And for the masculine, that's the only frustration point that may arise here, because this is a masculine that almost feels like the feminine isn't taking their own advice, right? And so that may be a hurdle that needs to be navigated to a certain extent now, because this is almost a moment for the energy in divine union where masculine's like, you're not taking your own advice. You told me that you want to talk about things when you're feeling them, and I literally am watching you right now go through something, and you won't tell me, or you won't articulate everything that you're going through right now, right? So that's almost like that moment that we're seeing that could be feeling like a little bit of like an incongruity now that needs to be navigated if in divine union and partnership. For masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union, feminine is seeing masculine kind of like having some of this attention. Again, it's not the fact that there isn't other energy around this masculine right now. It's like masculine is almost amplifying right now how little it matters. Like, again, masculine wants to talk about these things right now. Masculine is now in a moment where these things don't matter. So now, blah, 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 blah. Masculine just wants to talk about how little these things matter right now, right? And for the feminine in this modality, this is almost that moment that the feminine, and this could be a little bit of that trigger point, because again, even now, this is masculine opening up and saying a lot of these things right now. And feminine is, again, holding or reserving their judgment, because this is a moment, again, it's not the fact that there isn't a lot of energy around this masculine right now. Feminine is almost taking a bit of a wait or see approach to see if masculine is actually, again, not letting these things affect or interrupt the divine union as well. This is feminine energy that is almost like adopting a wait and see approach as it relates to these circumstances or situations. Masculine, if you're in divine union and partnership with feminine right now, this could be the only challenge point that could potentially be rising up right now, because again, this is almost a feminine that's staying kind of tight-lipped as it relates to you kind of opening up about these circumstances and situations. And we almost see here that this might be a moment that you're looking for the same in kind with feminine. And this is certainly not the moment that feminine is willing to open up about these things right now, because we're seeing here that this is a feminine that, what do we say? Feminine energy doesn't want to ruin a good thing right now by saying something that may effectively like disrupt the divine union that's forming. This is a feminine that's almost being like, right now. So even now, this may feel like a little bit of a hurdle, because this is almost a moment where masculine is in a moment in space or place where they want the feminine to open up. And the feminine is really just like holding their tongue to a certain extent, because they see things moving in the direction they want, and they don't want to upset it by effectively saying something they feel might like cause some kind of like fracture point right now as things are like moving in a productive way. So again, this isn't a feminine trying to keep any secrets. It's almost a feminine like moving from a state of anxiety and fear. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our King of Swords in its reversal and our Queen of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, what did I say? 10 of Cups in its reversal. This is the only hurdle that we're effectively seeing right now, because what we're effectively identifying at this time is, again, masculine and feminine. Even in divine union right now, what's feminine doing? Feminine energy is holding on to their own stuff right now. Feminine energy is grounding their energy because they don't want to upset the apple cart as it relates to bringing something out that isn't necessarily something that feels like it's productive. Masculine is in the opposite modality. Masculine almost feels like the feminine isn't opening up to them to a degree, and it's creating that moment of anxiety or frustration for the masculine, because it's almost that moment of not feel like, seeing the feminine almost adopt the same lesson you told them a few days ago that they're now doing is now creating a point where you're feeling a little bit vulnerable as a result of it, because you're worried it has something to do with you, and feminine's almost saying like, no, it has nothing to do with you. I literally just don't want to upset things. So it feels a little bit ironic right now where we find these two energies. Masculine and feminine trying to come into divine union right now, we are effectively seeing that, again, the feminine, masculine, is feeling, again, what did I say about this egg? Again, making sure you don't hold the egg too tightly. What's feminine doing? Feminine is holding the egg of the divine union right now with kid gloves. Feminine is being really observant and not wanting to disrupt it. Feminine is doing everything they can right now to hold it as carefully as possible. Masculine is potentially seeing a feminine that's moving more slowly right now, moving more reticently. And what we're effectively seeing at this time is this is a masculine that's almost feeling that anxiety point, because this is a feminine that feels more reticent, but making sure that you don't misunderstand that energy right now, because this is a feminine that's trying to handle something with kid gloves, and this is a masculine that's starting to feel the anxiety because it's a thing that this is something that's so valuable to them that they don't want to disrupt it. It's almost like, again, complementary energies right now, trying to having the same fear, but attracting and addressing it in different ways. Feminine is carrying something very preciously right now. Masculine is feeling the anxiety of carrying something that is precious. Masculine and feminine that are in separation. Feminine is effectively, again, this is why we see that the feminine energy is focusing on their own self right now. Feminine's just trying to ground themselves at this moment, because it's not the fact that they didn't have a desire for a masculine energy in the past. This is that moment of the feminine feeling that if in separation right now. But it's a reminder and the observation about how the energy could not stand in integrity to allow for that future to evolve. What did we just say is happening for the energy right now, feminine, that had to disengage from an energy that they may have had a lot of love and care and affection for? Feminine energy is giving themselves that cold water on the face with the point of observation that, again, in order to achieve the manifestation goal that they want to achieve, they need an energy that is consistent in their affection and their care. And feminine is recognizing that anything that they're releasing may not necessarily have come from a lack of care on the part of that energy, but the inconsistency was the impossibility point. That inconsistency would not allow for a level or degree of a sustainable long-term future. And this is what the feminine is holding on to as a point of observation, even though it is coming from a point of catharsis. Masculine energy in separation, this is recognizing your own inconsistencies. This is that moment of, again, potentially having that cold water feeling. You're having that same cold water feeling, but it is that moment of observation and how you may have been inconsistent to a feminine in that way, shape, or form. And it is that moment right now of observation about how your own inconsistency may have affected the feminine, that is giving you an observation on why something necessarily did not work out the way that you expected it to, or why there may have been this difficulty, or what these upsets were, because you're now seeing the fact that that is a feminine energy, almost that point of observation, that the inconsistency was not coming from the feminine, but was potentially any inconsistency that you experienced was the result of your own inconsistency reflecting back on you from them. And this is that moment that, again, is creating an opportunity, potentially an epiphany for a lot of the energy in separation right now, if you're masculine energy, because it is that moment of self-observation that is either allowing you now to be able to, again, move towards new energy, recognizing your own act of changes, what you're going to change moving forward that is going to allow you to come forward in a state and space of standing in integrity. Because what is integrity if not consistency? Or if this is a moment of going back to an energy to take accountability for your own inconsistencies of the past. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Pentacles in combination with our 10 of Pentacles. We love these two cards together. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Temperance card. Masculine and feminine energy right now are grounding. There's a lot of grounding energy right now, grounding in reality right now, coming into, again, working on where you are now. Feminine and masculine, even now we see that a lot of this energy that feminine's been going through right now, feminine, even if in divine union and partnership right now, if you've been feeling a lot of this heavy energy, if you've been unpacking a lot of this stuff right now, how is feminine grounding themselves? This is why we see that the feminine doesn't even need to unpack a lot of this stuff right now with a masculine in this modality. Rather, we almost see that the solution to this circumstance or situation right now is feminine is, again, just grounding in the reality of the situation. Feminine is like utilizing this right now to kind of come into that space. A lot of work right now for the feminine, even in divine union and partnership, on focusing on the tangibles. Feminine's got a lot of stuff right now that they're working on. Feminine's focusing on that grounding energy right now. And feminine, again, is almost saying to themselves, they don't have time to unpack, right? Much like the lesson, the same lesson that they gathered and they got from masculine over the last few days. Because what was the lesson that masculine was giving feminine over the last few days? Feminine saw masculine in that cavalier mentality and misinterpreted that as a lack of care. Masculine almost saying to feminine, if in divine union, that is not a lack of care on my part. That is an intentional choice on where I am directing and focusing my attention. This is feminine basically adopting the same purpose, the same tactic. Feminine's focusing on what they need to do, focusing on everything that is moving in that direction. And that, in a way, is helping snap the feminine back into the moment, away from anything that is that deeper work. That's almost feminine saying like, okay, I spent the last few days like dealing with a lot of that heavy energy from the past coming back up, dealing with a lot of that past trauma. Now is like cleared. Back into focus today, back into reality, back into what like is there. Masculine, you may be seeing this on the part of the feminine right now. And for the masculine in this modality right now, this can almost be feeling like you saw like a little bit of a sea change in feminine in terms of like where they've been over the last couple of days, feeling like they've kind of been like, you know, in that like liminal state, if you will, as they were unpacking. Masculine, you may now also be seeing the fact that something about the feminine around you right now is now back into that modality of really focusing on the present, focusing on that energy around them in terms of that point of productivity. And masculine, again, one of the frustrating things here is potentially, again, feeling like feminine hasn't fully unpacked something with you. It's almost a feminine, again, taking you're getting mad, you're getting potentially frustrated at a feminine that's taking your own advice, that's like, you know, putting themselves into the present as that point of like navigating it. And for the masculine right now, one of the things that may be occurring, even if in divine union or not, you know, is that moment of potentially having that like point of curiosity or uncertainty as it relates to like where you saw the feminine in that modality, because this was a lot of the feminine doing that like internal journey. But at the same time, you yourself recognize that this is something that you also have that point of understanding in as well. There could be a moment right now, again, you're recognizing that this is a feminine that's learning a lot from that connection right now. You and them are both doing a lot of work right now in terms of focusing on what feels like it is productive versus what doesn't feel like it is helpful. That's almost like how you're grounding back into what you're trying to do and what you're trying to grow. The partnership, again, the divine union itself is the grounding force that is allowing you. Again, it almost doesn't require a point of activation in terms of any of these problems around you right now. It's just almost immediately, refocusing your energy in the spaces and places that you want it to be productive. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now, we are effectively seeing that this is that moment that feels like a little bit of a differentiation point in terms of how the masculine and feminine are carrying it right now. Feminine is just trying to hold the moment. Feminine is trying to not necessarily do anything that feels like rash or quick, because feminine right now is feeling the weight of the divine union forming. Feeling the divine union forming. Feminine's just trying to hold very rigidly there, not let themselves get triggered or anything of that in that way. Masculine, this is that moment that masculine, you may be again feeling that need or that desire to really want to rush ahead right now. Really want to rush ahead forward towards feminine at this moment, but almost again that feeling of trying to hold yourself back to a certain extent, because again, if this is the divine union frequency, you are necessarily also recognizing that you're working very hard right now in helping this feminine energy feel that point of confidence, feel that point of security. And the only problem for the masculine right now is, again, it's how do you hold an egg? Feminine is being very careful and slow with the egg. Masculine is wants to run forward with the egg to a certain extent. And so that's almost that differentiation point that we are seeing right now. Feminine energy, if in separation right now, this is feminine energy doing almost the exact same work that we see that the energy in partnerships doing right now to navigate anything from the past that may feel like they've got a hold on you right now. It's grounding in the reality of the situation. This is that cold water. This is feminine energy almost saying to themselves, snap out of it. Come back into focus. Focus on what feels productive. Focus on what feels grounding. Focus on what feels real versus the illusion of something that you desire to be the way that it may not necessarily have been. For feminine right now, that is what's helping the feminine stay very focused in the moment, away from falling into those feelings of whatever they're letting go of moving forward from this point. Masculine energy in separation, this is going to feel like a lot of the opposite energy, because this isn't necessarily a moment right now where you are feeling like you're trying to ground your energy right now. This is going to feel like you're playing a game of catch up. If you're in separation right now, there could be a feeling of that cold water splashing on your face. Doesn't feel like something about coming back into focus with the present. It has to do with a point of feeling the anxiety and wanting to make immediate accommodations and changes based on your own sense of personal understanding now, especially if this is coming through more as a feeling of an epiphany. If this is coming through as an epiphany, if there's something about yourself that you now realize, this is either that moment that you're either trying to rush towards the energy that potentially caused this clarity, but is now in a point of fracture, or this is a moment that you're trying to take this lesson and rush forward with it as quickly as you can, even if it came at a great cost. Because we're effectively seeing at this moment that this is that point that masculine is almost trying to rush ahead right now, feeling again, potentially you're a few seconds slow of the punch, a few minutes, a few feet short of the bus. It's trying to rush ahead right now, having that point of observation. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our 10 of Pentacles in combination with our 8 of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? 6 of Swords. Masculine and feminine right now that are in divine union and partnership. Again, one of the things that we're effectively seeing at this time is this moment identifying and recognizing what that point of change is. Masculine and feminine in divine union and partnership right now. There is that moment of, again, there are hurdles here. There are difficulties. There are burdens. There are moments that we're effectively seeing here that both of you are bearing these things together. The energy itself, you're both moving from a state or space. It's not that the last few days haven't been triggering, but it's all about how you're carrying that trigger. It's about the fact that you're kind of having this mutual sense of, again, moving away from situations and circumstances with, again, sense of like navigating your own personal grief, navigating your own personal blockages. But again, what is so empowering about the divine union frequency is remembering that the divine union frequency leaves that space or opportunity to move forward together, holding on to that point of grief. This isn't a moment we're seeing that in divine union, like this point of observation and saying you're not allowed to have any grief here. You're not allowed to have any sadness. There's a moment that the reason the divine union is valuable is that moment of observing that the path that you've taken up until this point is that moment of carrying the grief from the past into the point of productivity going forward. It doesn't make you have to pretend that it didn't exist. It doesn't have to make you pretend that it's not there. It is that moment that you realize and recognize that, like, holding on to grief as you move towards joy is just a kind of a refining aspect of life. The important thing is that you continue to move forward in that positive way instead of letting that grief hold you back. And even now, it is feeling like a lot of that work, it does feel like a challenging space. It feels like the last few days have been a lot of like that intentional carrying forward. But again, feeling, again, more than anything, amplifying and grounding yourself in the present to help reaffirm that commitment to move forward in that direction. Masculine and feminine right now that are in or coming into divine union and partnership, this is the same exact energy. It's not the fact that there aren't things that are being released right now. It's almost reaffirming your commitment in terms of what you're moving towards. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. This is the feminine energy carrying the grief. Feminine energy is observing that they're moving away from something, and they're not moving away from something voluntarily. This is something that the feminine feels that they had to move away from because it's not effectively what they would aspire and a desire to. And it is an act of grief to move forward right now from separation, because again, this is feminine energy that is not moving away from something due to a lack of care, to a lack of love. This is feminine effectively taking the reality of the present and focusing on that to help them move away from any of the harms of the past. Masculine, there is this point of observation right now. And this is that point that we effectively see because, again, it's almost that moment that there's one modality of this or the other that is potentially happening. That this is effectively articulating on the decision that the masculine is making at this time, because this is a masculine energy that is effectively looking at their past version of the self, your past behavior. You're seeing it from new optics. You feel like there's something productive here that you can do. And this is either a moment of assessment of, again, going back to situations and circumstances, having that point of accountability, observing what the blockages were, coming back with a sense of wanting to reconcile, to have that be a point of easement, or this is a moment that you are carrying that grief forward with you, a hard lesson learned, but now feeling equipped to proceed forward into the spaces and places that you know now what you need to change about the self to be able to build that sense of like your new commitment going forward. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our 10 of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Temperance in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 4 of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine in divine union and divine partnership, this is that moment that we're effectively observing that, again, it's not the fact that there aren't situations and circumstances right now that are challenging or difficult. It is allowing oneself, again, the partnership itself, the divine union is allowing new possibilities, new opportunities, new pathways. And more than anything, it is that point of observation that we are effectively identifying and recognizing right now for divine union that is related to the fact that we are seeing that for the energy that's in divine union right now, this is just that moment of allowing one's own choices to effectively help and define those situations and circumstances. We're really seeing for the divine union energy right now, it's not the fact that there isn't some observation right now of past issues, past experiences, past harms. These things come back up. We see that a lot of this is coming back up. But again, the divine unions are utilizing those as lessons. They're utilizing them as cycles that can be adjusted and modified and changed. But it is hard work, because what we are effectively identifying right now is this point of recognition, wherein we see that for the energies that are coming into divine union right now, it is requiring this moment of looking backwards so that you can look forwards. And that moment right now is actually one of the challenging spaces, because in a way, the difference that we're seeing between masculine and feminine is feminine almost not wanting to address it. And I have to stress here, feminine not choosing to articulate and address it to the feminine is the change. That's the problem, right? Because masculine and feminine's trying to do something different. Feminine is trying not to address something. That's the change. The problem with the masculine is masculine now wants to address these things. That's the change. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the inherent problem to a certain extent that's caused here? This is a little bit of that problem that's happening, because what we're effectively seeing is, again, both energies trying to do the same thing, but in different ways. So recognizing that right now, I think it's really important to make sure that this doesn't become a point of conflict, but a point of observation. Masculine and feminine right now coming into divine union, you guys have the same problem, right? Masculine, all they want to do right now of coming into divine union is talk about these things. Feminine almost doesn't want to talk about any of those things, because feminine is really worried that having any conversations about those things might cause the masculine to get reactive and upset the apple cart again, might push masculine back into that separation frequency. So again, this is both energies trying to make an adjustment point. Feminine is trying not to talk about outside problems or the past. Masculine's blah, 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 blah. All I want to do is talk about those things right now. So even now coming into divine union, this could be a little bit of a trigger point. Feminine energy right now, this is the feminine energy coming out of that past thinking. This is feminine energy not letting themselves get caught on overthinking a past that did not occur the way that they thought it did. Feminine energy is using that observation of the past to have a point of hard reality, which is the fact that the past, whatever that past situation was, it wasn't leading to a happy outcome, because there isn't a happy outcome here. If there was a happy outcome, feminine would be in it. Feminine is literally recognizing that that is why they're breaking away from something now, because again, if it isn't creating that sense of bliss, then to stay in it with the aspiration of a sense of bliss happening when everything was articulating that that wasn't the case, was just being in a cycle that was perpetuating their own unhappiness. And again, that lack of consistency being that point of observation for feminine, in recognizing that the feminine is looking as they move forward right now for spaces and places that can deliver that point of consistency, is effectively what the feminine is basically saying of, again, not wanting to remain in spaces and places that are built off a pipe dream. Not wanting to be in spaces and places with an energy that is too inconsistent to actually create the positive divine union that should just kind of form while being in connection. Masculine in separation right now, this is that moment that you may be observing those changes in the self that you may need to make right now. And a lot of it is, again, having a different decision as to what you want your long-term manifestation goal to be. Masculine, your long-term manifestation goal right now is effectively, potentially shifting. It's changing. It's not what you thought it was. The difference between masculine and feminine is feminine's desire of the long-term path ahead stays kind of sacrosanct. Masculine's is like a shifting territory here. And we see here that for the masculine energy right now, this is a moment that your aspiration, your long-term path ahead, you're starting to think now, not in the present moment. You're starting to realize and look at what that long-term future looks like and feeling like it isn't necessarily you're building towards that right now. And this is that moment that is almost requiring this sense of change. But it's coming from a point of observation. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card in its reversal in combination with our Six of Swords. Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Pentacles. What did I just say was happening? Did you hear what I just articulated what's happening here? So what's happening with masculine and feminine right now in divine union? The problem that's happening is you're both taking different tactics to handle any of these circumstances and situations from the past that are rising to the surface. The problem is you're taking different tactics and they both feel like you're doing something differently. But the problem is you're doing something differently that's the opposite of what the other person's doing. You took a page from each other's book a little too well, all right? Because this is a feminine that's effectively not letting themselves speak or overdwell on the things that are causing them burdens, learning that point of stoicism from masculine. Masculine, you're learning your point from feminine of wanting to unpack them, wanting to talk about them, wanting to bring them to the surface. And you're both now navigating this vice versa moment where you're both asking each other for the thing that you told the other one that you wanted, but now you're giving it to each other in the opposite way. So I just want you to be a little mindful of that if that's happening right now, because that's just something that could potentially popping up. That's exactly what's happening also for the energy in divine union right now. It's going to feel like a little bit of a role reversal. Feminine doesn't want to say a darn thing right now. Feminine is trying not to upset the apple cart. They're trying to hold the divine union with kid gloves. Masculine is trying to rush ahead right now. They want to talk, build, blah, 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 blah. And feminine's I am terrified of saying something that might cause a problem here. Feminine's doing the absolute opposite. Feminine's being very conservative at this point. So these energies have effectively flipped. Masculine and feminine that are in separation, feminine in separation. This is feminine energy that, again, there's this point of observation that feminine is effectively navigating right now, which is that reminder for feminine. This is that point of feminine recognizing their own grief. This is something about the feminine almost feeling to a certain extent that there is an aspect of their own grief and letting go that they know that they can't necessarily completely let go of. Why? Because this is feminine energy that's moving away from something due to a lack of consistency, due to a desire for something to change. And when you move away from something that you desire to change, there's always that aspiration that something will show evidence of being able to change. And so this is the feminine and this is how the feminine is building that closure point for themselves. Because in a way, feminine is saying to themselves, it's not that they're shutting a door. Feminine is effectively amplifying to themselves, if in separation right now, that feminine is always leaving the possibility open that someone might grow, that someone might change, that someone might learn, that someone might shift. Feminine's always leaving that possibility of healing up, but feminine is moving away from something, saying, I'm not going to wait for it to happen. I'm not going to wait for an energy to be able to come into that modality, because again, feminine's almost saying right now, the energy, there's no time. The energy just needs to show that ability to do so, or it doesn't. And feminine is almost recognizing that in a way they're closing out some cycles right now, because feminine is almost realizing and recognizing that leaving that space open is creating a sense of grief. That is the challenge right now. Feminine's almost looking right now to close these doors even more right now, because feminine is feeling that weight of grief that they're carrying with them, and feminine wants to release it. Feminine doesn't want to be in both of those modalities right now because it feels like it is potentially something that they can do, but it's not necessarily a pleasant thing to do. Masculine energy in separation right now. This is that moment that is literally that weight about forwards or backwards. This is literally feeling that sense of uncertainty on what to do with where you find yourself at this moment. Because again, masculine, you are carrying a lot of that weight right now, that burden, that grief, in terms of recognizing what's brought you to this point, those points of accommodation. And you're also feeling right now that something is coming to you a little bit too late. That moment that we're effectively seeing right now is effectively a moment that masculine is observing and asking themselves at this time, do you want to take this lesson and go backwards to come into a point of accommodation, or are you carrying it forwards as you proceed forward from this point? And that right now is that point of vacillation. This is masculine feeling like, again, you're kind of caught in that limbo state as you try to decide. Final cards for today's spread between our Four of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Two of Pentacles. King of Cups in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy, if in divine union or in divine partnership right now, what we are effectively seeing is, even if you're in divine union and partnership right now, we are effectively seeing that for masculine and feminine in this modality right now, masculine, this is a day that feels very emotionally overwhelming to a certain degree, even for the energy that's in divine union and partnership at this moment. Because what we are really identifying at this time for masculine in this modality is this feeling of, again, having to this is almost something that, again, the partnership itself is leaving this room for you to have. It's creating this space for you to be able to feel your full feelings on things. The problem is something about the way you're feeling almost feels like it is emotionally overwhelming. It is feeling right now, like, again, having to learn that ability right now of feeling what you're feeling, experiencing what you're experiencing. There are moments right now that almost feels like it's allowing, it's allowing it to get the better of you. And we're seeing there for a lot of the masculine right now, this is that moment of trying to come into that space and place of finding that better sense of balance. Masculine, you're almost now going through a lot of that same rockiness that we saw that the feminine was going through over the last few days. And a lot of it is almost just coming through right now as, again, a personal moment of trying to navigate that hurdle. There's also this feeling right now of, again, masculine. Again, if this is a feminine that is feeling more reticent in communicating to you what they've been going through, this is a masculine that's feeling an emotional overwhelm from that. It's like the lack of connectivity is what's creating that feeling for masculine that feels like it's almost emotionally overwhelming, because, again, it is that feeling that is happening right now that is requiring, but again, you allowing yourself to feel like this in a way is you taking a different choice. It's you having this be something that feels to a certain extent like you're almost breaking some kind of cycle within, even in divine union right now. Because what we're effectively seeing at this time, if in divine union, is a moment that is allowing that space or place to be able for you to feel that emotional overwhelm and realize and recognize that in a way you can feel it so that you can find a way to balance it. This is like literally masculine energy if in divine union right now, like letting yourself just have that openness, have that emotional outlet, and taking a note from the feminine's page and being like, well, the feminine does this all the time. Maybe if I just emotionally let my emotions overtake me, maybe I'll be able to find a balance point on the other side of it. It's like masculine learning the lesson of feminine now. Feminine, you may be seeing this on the part of a masculine right now. And I need to stress, feminine, if you see a masculine right now that's very communicative and very overly emotional, I want you to remind yourself, if you asked the masculine for this a week ago, sometimes the mail comes a little late. Sometimes it takes a few days for the letter to come in the mail, because this is the masculine energy coming into that modality, and now you're in the opposite state. So be very mindful right now, masculine and feminine, because you guys are effectively, this is energy in divine union right now. You said this to the other person, and now they're mirroring to you where you saw them a few days before. Masculine's feeling a lot of that emotional overwhelm, while feminine is almost like pulling back right now. Masculine and feminine that are moving towards divine union, same thing. Masculine, you are potentially in this moment now where it's like you are feeling this like over influx of emotionality. Feminine is being a little bit more reserved, and it might be creating this like sense of anxiety for you right now, because what we're effectively seeing is, again, that feeling is inspired now in seeing the feminine in this modality. And it's all feel this like point of anxiety in relation of doubting and being like, again, like, oh, this feminine, you guys are, and I have to stress this, you guys are moving. I got to stress this. You guys are moving right now in the direction that you want things to go. Feminine is being reticent right now because feminine is worried about upsetting something. Don't misinterpret the feminine's own reticence here as a point of silence. This is a feminine energy that is, again, moving from a point of quietude because they're worried about, almost like, I'm getting here, like almost like interrupting the masculine energy's own concentration in building divine union. This is feminine, like I'm like almost like afraid to say or do anything in the wrong way because they're trying to hold on to what is forming so carefully. Feminine in this modality right now, this is seeing a masculine that's getting like overly emotional here. This is a feminine almost watching a masculine like their own emotionality to something right now. This is feminine almost seeing if the masculine can balance this, because again, feminine has seen sometimes masculine energy allow that emotionality to come out in a non-positive way. Allow it to become fear. Allow it to become like anger. Allow it to become something less than positive. Feminine is almost watching the masculine right now to see if they can navigate that emotional overwhelm into a space or place of productivity, or if it's going to disrupt moving into that navigation point right now of coming into divine union. Feminine that is in separation right now, this is that moment of feminine again. This is how the feminine's in separation. Feminine saw that on the part of a masculine. Feminine's almost acknowledging and saying to themselves that just as they have feelings towards an energy, they potentially recognize that whatever they're breaking away from also has energy, has a lot of feelings for them. The better question is whether it's coming from a place of productivity, whether it feels like it is beneficial, whether it feels like it is supportive, whether it feels like it is kind, or whether the feminine energy feels like that over emotionality that masculine may have towards them comes through in unpositive behavior, unhelpful behavior. Again, a feminine that navigates and recognizes a masculine that isn't able to navigate their own emotionality, their big feelings. If masculine hasn't learned to master their big feelings, then those big feelings, regardless of whether they call them love or not, may feel not like they don't feel like love, may feel like they feel harmful, may come through as something that feels less than positive. This is feminine recognizing the fact that masculine has the ability to misunderstand that feeling of emotion that is love and sometimes turn it into an expression that feels like the opposite. For feminine experiencing and acknowledging this, this is the moment that, again, if they're seeing the masculine that's starting to get overly emotional, this is a feminine that's literally standing back to see and saying, is this going to be able to be alchemized into something that feels like it is kind, that it is loving, or is this going to transmogrify into the opposite? Masculine in this modality right now, if you are, again, feminine in separation, is effectively saying that is why. That is feminine looking at something and saying, that is why I'm breaking away from something, because it is not due. And this is even a feminine articulating and looking at situations from the past and saying, it's not even a question about whether that energy also feels something for them, but it is that observation point of that potentially having not expressed itself in a way that felt caring, supportive, but instead harmful, unhelpful, non-positive. Feminine's almost realizing that a masculine can inhabit both of those modalities, and that is what is allowing feminine to, again, move towards masculine energy that has learned the ability to feel the influx of emotions and not let it spill out in harmful ways. Masculine, if you're in separation right now, you're having potentially a lot of points of observation on, again, either that feeling of emotion, recognizing that your feeling, your expression of energy, that feeling towards feminine in the past may have gotten misalchemized, may not necessarily come out in the best ways, but instead it's almost like that influx, that overflow is something that, because of your own ability not to navigate it, may have effectively caused that point of it not being received and accepted the way that you would aspire and desire to. Or potentially a feminine that didn't understand how you felt about them because it felt like you were moving back and forth through shifting polarities. And it is this moment that, again, masculine, this is becoming a bit of an internal journey, because masculine, if you're experiencing this right now, this is masculine that is going on the journey and saying to oneself that you are not even just doing this for the sake of the feminine right now. You're doing it for the sake of your own self, to come into that point of emotional balance, to find that from within. Bottom of the deck on today's reading is transformation is difficult. There's a lot of transformational energy that's effectively coming through right now. And we see that both for masculine and feminine energy right now, there's a lot to navigate. This is what we've been seeing with a lot of this energy that's been coming through over the last few days. Masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union right now. Even now, it's the fact that the divine union is not a place of stasis. It's almost a place where it's like more and more and more transformation has the ability to occur. The transformation is internal. It's that constant ability to grow, to shift, to change right now. And a lot of that is coming towards the divine union energy very quickly. It's requiring you to be very adaptable as you go through a lot of that modality. Masculine and feminine trying to come into divine union right now. This is that moment that we are effectively seeing that you are going through the process of transformation leading into divine union right now. Masculine and feminine, again, feminine is doing so very carefully. Feminine is doing so with a lot of care and consideration, holding back. Masculine wants to rush through that process, almost to like, again, like one wants to like do it almost like a birth. The other one wants to rip a Band-Aid off of it. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is feminine going through an internal process of transformation. This is feminine allowing a point of closure, and that point of closure is being reached between a sense of deep, and this is going to be a lot of grief. If feminine energy has been going through a lot of grief right now, it is feeling like a point of grief because it is looking at the reality of a situation versus what you really hoped would be. It's feeling the difference between what you actually experienced versus what you had aspired for. And it feels like feminine is almost coming into that point of closure. And there's a lot of grief that is being released in that moment, because it does feel like feminine's trying to create an ending for themselves so that they can move forward with a lot of that grief being released. Like that process of releasing the grief feels very painful because it almost feels like an ending for feminine. Masculine, if in separation right now, this is a process of personal transformation that's occurring. And it's terrifying. And it's potentially feeling very overwhelming for you right now because you're recognizing and you're feeling a lot of things within you adjusting, changing. Your priorities are shifting. And so again, I think that you need to be very careful and calm with yourself during this process to make sure that you are allowing yourself the space to navigate that appropriately and that you're moving with intentionality instead of fear. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. Please remember, if you'd like to book a private reading, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Please keep in mind, when you book a private reading, they're done over video. And if you book one, you can also remember as well, most importantly, that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never PM you. I will never DM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.